Now, Canada, following the lead of the United States, will impose a 100% tariff hike on Chinese electric vehicle imports. The country is also planning to impose a 25% duty hike on Chinese steel and aluminium. The duties apply to all EVs shipped from China, which would include those made by Tesla. Canada's duties on Chinese EVs are due to come into effect from the 1st of October, while those on steel and aluminium will be implemented from the 15th of October. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said Ottawa will continue to work with the US and other allies to ensure that customers around the world are not unfairly penalized by non-market practices of countries such as China. The European Union this month imposed tariffs of up to 36.3% on imports of Chinese-made EVs. Let's get you more on this with DD India's Kate Fisher joining us live from Washington, D.C. Hello, Kate. China has already taken the EU to the WTO against its more modest EV tariff hikes compared to the US and Canada. Now, is that what we could also expect in this case as well?
Hello, yes, well, they haven't yet done so, but you're right. If the past is anything to go by, then they are very likely to take them to the WTO. China has urged Canada to, quote, immediately correct its wrong practices and said that Beijing would take any necessary measures to defend the rights and interests of Chinese companies. So it does look like retaliation is very likely, and they've done that in the past, as you say, when trade tariffs were imposed by other countries, the US, for example, and the EU. But it is more symbolic since the World Trade Organization rulings on trade disputes are supposed to take 6 months after an adjudication panel is set up, but they often take longer. And the top appeals bench has been paralysed since 2019. The US has been opposing appointments to that bench. So basically, at this point, going to the WTO is a bit of a dead end. That is until this top court's reinstated.
Right. Now, are the latest moves being seen as a further intensification of a global trade war, which could have far-reaching consequences even for nations like India?
Well, the general consensus is yes, it all brings uncertainty. And if Donald Trump comes back to power here in the US, that trade war is likely to get worse. And of course, the Democrats are now also largely in the anti-China camp when it comes to trade. So they're cracking down on it as well. That could benefit India, of course, as the US looks to other countries to import goods from. But there could also be negatives, like look at the steel industry, for an example. It's already causing issues for India's domestic steel after the US increased tariffs on Chinese steel and aluminium earlier this year. It's encouraged China, the world's biggest producer, to offload its surplus stocks that it can't now sell to the US by offering competitive rates to Indian buyers. And that in turn is hurting India's domestic steel producers. So there is general uncertainty about what this means, not just for the US, China and Canada, but for the whole world. And that uncertainty is made more uncertain by the fact that we don't know who's going to be in the White House next year.
Yes, certainly ripe ground for unforeseen consequences, not the obvious ones like the Tesla stock taking a beating. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Kate.